For the sake of beginning this video, I think that it would be extremely important to have a one-on-one talk with me, the speaker, and you as the audience to discuss nostalgia. There are certain aspects of nostalgia that come either from memory of our favorite video games, towards our favorite shows, and of course, towards our favorite films or genres. And what was the cause of our enlightenment towards this sort of media? I can begin by saying that as a young child, I, of course, was exposed to cartoons at a very young age and had a deep love for it ever since. But there comes a secondary of my interest, which is during the aspects of certain genres of films. Rather, it would be drama, action, documentary, and of course, all of them I deeply love with much, much respect. But to be blatantly honest, I would say that my favorite genre in terms of film is, of course, horror. Now, horror is either a love that comes in our lives during either a younger age or once we have the freedom of watching R-rated films and being blatantly fascinated from what we are seeing. Rather, it would be scenes of teenagers trying to have sex or trying to, of course, either do drugs or any sort of issues that our parents forbid us to make. They, of course, be punished by the killer, which is the main antagonist of the film, who is a symbol to punish us for our wrongdoings. And of course, the film that I was first introduced to was Halloween 2. Now, I just wanted to give you my time to explain how important Halloween 2 really is towards me, and of course, how I was exposed to this certain genre. When I was at the age of 7, I remember coming to my grandfather's house, and same with my sister. We would come and visit every break, and there were a large variety of films that we were allowed to watch and we were not allowed to watch. And of course, we went in his selection of films which he owned, and of course, me and my sister were exposed to Halloween 2. When we first look at the cover, all we can see was a cover of a man with sort of the yin and yang aspects. We have his dark side of his face on his right side and his white face on the left side. And standing around in one of his eyeballs, we can see a woman who looks extremely terrified. As we are interested in this film, we can see from the DVD cover of a man bleeding out of his face for whatever reason. And so we asked if we could, of course, watch the film, and he didn't mind. What we saw was both confusing and for whatever reason, engaging at the same time. We see at the beginning of a film of a woman terrifyingly injured for reasons we did not know of, and two children completely terrified out of their minds. We see them walk out on the streets begging for someone to help them, and we could see a balding aged man who is of course Donald Pleasence going into the house and shooting this woman's attacker. As we briefly see, we see her talk about the boogeyman, and of course addressing her attacker as this creature in the night who is a symbol of terrifying children. As we see the elder man look at the young girl, she says, "A matter of fact, I believe it was this terrifying entity that is not human nor monster, but something that would not exist or shouldn't exist in this world." As we see the elder man check to see the remains of her attacker, we can see that he had, of course, escaped. And from the second of this, I was just briefly wondering what the hell is going on in my mind, both me and my sister, and we were entirely engaged within Halloween 2. So that was just a brief summary of me explaining my exposure towards the horror genre. That, of course, was Halloween 2. Michael Myers is still to this day my favorite horror icon because, of course, he was not also the first one out of the big three, being Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger, but for whatever reason, there was something about his design and just the way he moved, and noting that he had absolute no dialogue. He was just a man who was something that I have never seen before in my life. Now, of course, after this, I was exposed to several other films such as Pet Sematary, but I will say that Halloween is the one that invested me within the horror franchise. Now, even though Michael Myers sure as hell is not the best written out of the big three, no, that place of course goes to Freddy Krueger, but I will say that he is a huge iconic horror aspect in the horror and in the horror industry. Of course, before him we had monsters such as Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula, and the Mummy, but none of them came close to Michael Myers, either as a character or a horror villain. Now, of course, I will be telling you guys my thoughts and explaining the summary of Halloween 2 with my best knowledge included. Now, Halloween 2, of course, takes place about, I would say, 10, 20-something minutes after the events of the first Halloween movie, which of course ended with the escape of the villain Michael Myers. Now, Halloween 2 was a film that was not originally supposed to be made because at the time they had no knowledge, or they absolutely had no desire in even making a sequel, because not in those days it was extremely hard to make a sequel, especially during the horror genre, because nobody really wanted to do a sequel. Well, that didn't stop Sean Cunningham in the Friday the 13th series, and it sure as hell didn't stop Wes Craven in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Well, Halloween was the first one to do it, and believe it or not, John Carpenter wasn't really, or Deborah Hill wasn't really involved within this film, because really they thought as well that Halloween was one of those movies that didn't intend to make a sequel. And sadly enough, Halloween 2, from what I found out within my knowledge of the upcoming film, is non-canon. And Halloween 1 is the only film that takes place this upcoming Halloween film, which is confirmed to be 100% canon within the Halloween series, which is very interesting, knowing the fact that we had all these sequels and knowing the fact that these, in my own personal theory, in an alternate universe. Not to say that Halloween doesn't have alternate universes, I'm just blatantly explaining it. So, anyways, back to the summary and me quitting my mumbling about what is canon and what is not. So, we take place into the film, and Jamie is, of course, going into the hospital for her wounds and how badly she was attacked by Michael. And we can see that Michael Myers is still on a manhunt to go out and kill her. And the whole film is basically taking place within this hospital, and Jamie and Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, is trying to escape from Michael Myers trying to come in and, of course, kill her. In this film, we see a lot of Sam Loomis. And in this film, we can see that, of course, Loomis is losing his mind while talking to Sheriff Brackett. And, of course, Michael Myers is the one thing that Sam Loomis's goal is trying to exterminate for the sake of everybody in the town. So, as the story progresses, we can see large development and understanding towards the character of Laurie, and why, of course, she is undoubtedly the most popularist surviving characters in the horror industry, because her and Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street are well known as being the final girl. Now, the final girl is, of course, the last remaining character in a sea of victims that were slaughtered by, of course, the protagonist, which is the killer in the film. And so, from what we can see, Laurie's will to survive is of course impactful in making her into the genre of strong female protagonist, as well as putting her on the same spectrum as Ripley from Alien, of making her both a badass and someone to be inspired of knowing the fact that just because you are a woman doesn't necessarily mean that you, in all terms, deserves to be the damsel in distress. You could be the hero in your story, and that's something that Halloween has extremely put in for not also inspiring women, but inspiring anybody that just because of who you are, you cannot succeed in your will of survival. So that's why I, in my own terms, absolutely love this film, because of how determined she is to survive against this man, this monster, if you want to put him, trying to go out and, of course, kill her, but then knowing that she could have the strong will to survive. So, this film is hands down my favorite as much as I love the first Halloween, I will undoubtedly say from my own personal enjoyment that this is my favorite out of the series. Now, if I had to give it a rating from my own terms and narrowing down from story, characters, and my own personal enjoyment, I of course am going to give Halloween 2 a strong 8.4 out of 10, and highly recommending to both buying the movie or of course waiting for it to come out on TV, on AMS, which it should be on there. If not, it wouldn't make much sense if it was. So there you go. That's my review for the second Halloween film, my personal favorite in the franchise. I hope all of you really enjoyed both my analysis and my review for the second Halloween movie. Stay tuned for more reviews, and if you like this video and you want to be updated, just subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you should get all information of my latest videos. Thank you for watching this, and have a great day.